Alright, so it is time to take a look at your hot takes. I know, I took a long ass time to make this video. My schedule's been a little too cramped up this past month or so I apologize, guys. But hey, the important thing is we're here now, so let's take a look at what you guys have to say. The first one here is from I'm sorry, I'm not even going to try that. I'm sorry. No matter how low Triple H hits in terms of his booking, he will never hit the lows that Vince McMahon hit in the New Generation era and in the late and early 2010s. Now, do I think WWE in 2025 is worse than WWE in 2019? Absolutely not. 2025 is up there as one of the worst years for sure, but 2019, dude, that was just horrifyingly garbage. I can't even think of a word despicable enough to describe WWE in 2019. The Fiend and Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose getting a finger up his ass, Ricochet getting a finger up his ass, Roman Reigns getting smeared with dog food, King Corbin just existing like, dude, the whole faction with Drew McIntyre, King Corbin, and Bobby Lashley, it still gives me PTSD, dude. And Rusev getting cucked by Lashley. 2019 is the worst year in WWE history, dude. And I think 2025, while it has been horrible, is not even close to 2019. The shows we're getting now in 2025, the Raws and the SmackDowns, even though they're absolute trash, they'd be considered good back in 2019. And if you disagree, you're either delusional or you were not watching week to week back then. But here's the thing. I don't know how much worse WWE under Triple H can get. They're unpredictable. I honestly don't know. Judging by how much worse WWE's gotten just this year alone, like compare a show from January to a show now, like come on, the quality has drastically gone down. So honestly, I don't even know how much worse it's gonna get, but I mean 2019, dude. Like, yeah, even though Triple H is absolute cheeks at his job, I don't think it's ever gonna get that bad. Like, honestly, WWE has the potential to put on a good show next week if they just lock in. The next Monday Night Raw has the potential to be good if they just play their cards right, and they, use their stars right and all that stuff. They can put on a good show. 2019, on the other hand, Vince McMahon's lowest point, on the other hand, it was like, how is it even possible to fix this? There's no redeeming this. I mean, don't get me wrong here, there are some things that were better in 2019 than in 2025, like the Sponsored on the Map, for example. It's just crazy now, the shows feel super corporate, but the overall product, while it does absolutely suck right now, it was definitely a whole lot worse back then, and I don't think we're ever going to reach that point. So yeah, I do agree, while I do think WWE is going to get worse in the next couple of years or so, I don't think it's ever going to get that bad. So with that being said, let's move on to the next one. Chris Benoit should be accepted into the WWE Hall of Fame for all that he's done. No, man. Just no, alright? Because listen, here's the thing. This is something I've actually never talked about in one of my videos. I actually really like Chris Benoit's wrestling. His match with Kurt Angle at the Royal Rumble in 2003 is one of my favorite matches of all time. He gave Bret Hart his best match in WCW. That WrestleMania main event he was a part of, the triple threat match with Triple H and Shawn Michaels, that was amazing. But even with all that, I absolutely do not think he should be celebrated. I don't think they should honor him by putting him in the Hall of Fame, because I feel like the way he went out really overshadows anything he did in the ring. Because I feel like more than anything he ever did as a performer, the biggest thing that people associate with Chris Benoit is the incident. An incident where 3 people died, and one of them was a 5-year-old. So no, I don't think WWE should put him in the Hall of Fame. I don't think WWE should start honoring him in any way. So yeah, this is a take that I absolutely must disagree with. At Mr. Man BN4IU says, I don't know if you'll see this take, but I wish you will. Well, your wish is granted. Brock Lesnar squashing John Cena at WrestlePalooza in a traditional, normal match was one of the few good decisions Triple Fraud did in 2025 so far, kayfabe-wise. Nah, dude, absolutely not. Because here's the thing. Maybe WWE's intent was to make Brock Lesnar look super strong so that when he put someone over like a Braun Breaker, that would make him look strong. But 2 things. 1, Brock Lesnar doesn't need to be John Cena to look strong. This dude can just do anything, he can just not do anything at all and still be the strongest guy on the roster. He's Brock Lesnar. If Brock Lesnar lost to John Cena, not anybody, man, John Cena. He's not anybody we're talking about. This is John Cena. Like, he wouldn't lose anything by losing to him. Like, he'd still be Brock Lesnar. And guess what? Forget that. 2, Brock Lesnar has not shown up since then. Not even once. So whatever momentum you built up for this guy, it's all cooled off now. It doesn't have any effect anymore. So get out of here, man. Instead of that, if you gave Cena a full circle moment where he finally overcomes the guy that squashed him at SummerSlam in 2014 in one of his last matches, like, that makes sense. Instead, we just did a Temu version of their 2014 match to make Brock Lesnar look strong. Just that sentence itself, man, to make Brock Lesnar look strong. Like, just listen to how stupid that sounds. So yeah, I don't agree with this whatsoever. John Cena should have definitely gone over at WrestlePalooza. At Mr. Leon Swag 2K says, Burn in My Light I always found as a horrible theme song, and I'd consider it as one of the worst themes of what? I hate everything in it, the intro, the lyrics, everything. I am completely on board with Randy Orton because he never liked it too. What the hell? Yo, you guys better start frying this take in the comments because this might be the craziest one I've seen so far. Like, yeah, sure, if you don't like the song, if you think it's, overrated, whatever, I still disagree, but whatever. But saying it's one of the worst theme songs ever made is just crazy. Like, the only Burn in My Light slander I'll agree with is that the mashup with Metalingus for Rated RKO was ass, One of my favorite tag teams of all time, but I'm sorry, that mashup was horrible. But Burn in My Light itself, that one song itself, I genuinely don't know how you can hate the song that much. And even Randy Orton, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he hates the song as much as Leon Swag here, I think he just hated having it as his entrance song. I don't know, I just disagree with this take completely. Might be the worst take I've seen in this comment section so far. I'm sorry. Next up, we got SmackDown is just unwatchable at this point. That is not a hot take, so let's just move on. At SithXLE7546 said that John Cena's farewell tour would have been more grandiose if Vince was still in charge. I saw another hot take that said the same thing. But this one also brought up that, Kurt Angle's retirement was handled so poorly, maybe because he left WWE for TNA, but that John Cena being loyal, to Vince McMahon and WWE, he would have been treated like a legend on his way out. Now, I get that line of thinking, Kurt Angle himself admitted that Vince might have booked his send-off, out of spite, Like, he admitted that in an interview with Chris Van Vliet, I'm pretty sure, He said that maybe because he went to TNA back in the day, Vince McMahon didn't handle his retirement very well. So yeah, I see why people assume that Cena would have gotten the complete opposite treatment. But here's what everyone's forgetting. You can't just say Vince would have made it amazing. Vince in his final years was not a good booker, absolutely not. And then there's Cena himself. He's a yes man. He doesn't pitch. He doesn't, challenge creative. He just does what he's told. So when you combine a guy who never pushes back with a booker who's completely out of touch, you're not guaranteed to get some beautiful emotional send-off. So yeah, loyalty or not, Vince being in charge wouldn't have made Cena's farewell tour grandiose. I feel like Triple H being a terrible booker has led people to believe that, Vince McMahon was this booking god, but no. 2017 to 2019, like I said earlier, is still the worst time period for WWE. 2020 was horrible too, with some bright spots here and there. 2021 was good at first, but then did a complete 180 and became horrible. And then of course, he stepped down in 2022 and Triple H took over. So yeah, given how horrendous Vince McMahon was in his last 5 years, I wouldn't count on him either. At Edward O. Banner says that Randy Orton should randomly give wrestlers RKO every SmackDown. Like, okay? Like, I don't know if this is just a troll or not, but that's legit all Randy Orton is right now, They just clip farm his RKOs. Like, how many times have we had the same segment where Randy Orton RKOs a bunch of officials and Michael Cole goes, oh my god, RKOs for everybody. Like, get out of here, man. Anyways, let's just move on. At Nashizi says, honestly, best spear goes Roman, Goldberg, Rhino, Braun, Edge, Jey Uso in that order. Honestly, I'd put Rhino above everyone else, if you're gonna comment, actually it's called the Gore, not a spear, like, get out of here, man. But yeah, I'd put Rhino above everybody else. And then I think Braun Breaker, because I think Braun Breaker is criminally low in this list. So yeah, Rhino, Breaker, Goldberg, Roman, Edge, and then literally all 8 billion human beings in the world, and then Jey Uso. So I'm gonna have to disagree with this take. At Mighty Biscuit Rex says that Giovanni Vinci would have been an amazing heel, but they turned him into a comedy act. Not even a comedy act, they put him through a humiliation ritual. I don't know about amazing heel, because I feel like most wrestling fans just have this tendency to act like somebody WWE releases could have been this kind of a big deal. Honestly, he'd just be a solid lower mid-carder, I genuinely have no idea what Vinci could have done in WWE, and honestly, man, I really don't care. So yeah, let's just move on. At Oracular Fan says that Bronson Reed ruined the Vision from reaching great. Nah, man, I already disagree. While I do think that Bronson Reed joining Seth Rollins still makes no sense, and the explanation they gave was absolutely stupid, at least Bronson Reed did some things of note. Like the whole tribal thief thing, the whole Shula Fala thingy, like what has Braun Breaker done? The Vision literally did nothing for Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed is the only one that actually did something in the faction. And I think the Vision was just cooked since day one, So whether you like Bronson Reed or not, You cannot say that he's the reason why the vision was bad, that he's the reason why it never reached greatness. So yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with this one. Let's just move on. At Gustavo Paniza says that Chris Van Vliet is the Fabrizio Romano of wrestling. It's the opposite spectrum of Bobby Monsoon, C-Jax, or Critman. I mean, he's not just a content creator or a YouTuber, you know, he's like a journalist. He gets celebrities on his platform, so yeah, obviously he's gonna be a lot more clean, respectful, you know, all that stuff. So I mean, yeah, I don't know how that's a hot take either, so yeah, let's just move on. Really, I got nothing more to say about that. At Night of Enigma says that the in-ring bell-to-bell story is way better than 40-minute yap session promo storytelling. Now here's the thing, I'm sure that me along with most fans can agree that we need both. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It doesn't have to be either great matches or great promos. No, it needs to be both. But this comment is talking about which one is better, and I see why this is a hot take. Because most people are going to say that they think the promos and all those other storytelling medium are more important than the actual in-ring stuff. But I'm not gonna lie, I actually kind of agree with Night of Enigma here. Because look, you can get on the microphone and be the best speaker in the world. You can put on some of the best acting we've ever seen in a backstage segment. You can have all that. But at the end of the day, nothing matters more than what you do in the ring. Because it is wrestling. The whole point of wrestling is what goes on in the ring. Like take Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso for example. That had an amazing story that most fans loved. But there's a reason why most people don't talk about it today. There's a reason why it's not remembered as good as it should be, and it's because the match was bad. You have to deliver in the ring. The story you tell in the ring is more important than anything else. Because here's the thing, if I want good dialogues or good monologues, then I'm gonna go watch a movie or a TV show. They do that a hell lot better than wrestling. What actually fascinates me about wrestling is what goes down in the ring, what story they tell in the ring. So yeah, I do agree with Night of Enigma's take, so let's just move on. At Jakin Sokol says that CM Punk versus John Cena at Money in the Bank 2011 is an overrated match. Sure, the crowd and the build was great and it's a fun match to watch, but it's not a 5-star match at all and it had some awkward botches too. Is that true? Like I don't remember any crazy botches or any crazy number of botches. I don't know, man. That match is literally one of my favorite matches of all time. And again, just to be clear, favorite doesn't mean best. So I'm not saying this is the best match ever, but it is one of my favorites. Because one, it's a really great match, and two, that match is my childhood, so I am biased. So I really don't know how you could possibly think this was not worthy of a 5-er. Also, I must add, this match just had a different level of hype when it happened, you know? This match just had that aura. So yeah, I mean, I absolutely disagree with this. I think Cena and Punk definitely put on a classic at Money in the Bank. At worst channel you have ever... Okay. I mean, anyways, yeah, he says that Jay White would have been more successful in the WWE than in AEW. No, I don't think so. You know, Triple H sucks. Yeah, I think his booking has been bad in AEW, but I don't think he'd be doing great in WWE either, you know? I think if Jay White was in WWE, he'd be presented as a big deal for probably like a few months, and then he'd just get lost in the shuffle, just like all of WWE's recent new signings, you know? So yeah, I disagree. I mean, I see why you'd think that, because obviously his booking has been bad in AEW, but I actually think there's more hope for him in AEW than in WWE. So yeah, let's just move on. At the Dragon of the Dalzell says that only keeping B-Fab from Hit Row and not Swerve Strickland was a stupid decision. That's not a hot take! Because genuinely, like, who is going out there saying, yo, I am so glad WWE kept B-Fab over Swerve Strickland? Like, no, man, nobody's saying that. But anyways, yeah, you know, the second hot take here is that Karrion Kross was a better heel than people give him credit for. Nah, I'm gonna be honest here. I have never been invested in anything Karrion Kross did. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't hate Karrion Kross as much as a lot of people do. I think he could have been a solid lower mid-carder in WWE, doing some fun stuff here and there, but nothing more than that. There's never been anything about his in-ring work or his mic work that has drawn me towards him. I mean, I think he sucks in the ring, but on the mic he isn't bad, but nothing crazy, you know, nothing special. So no, you know, I don't think Karrion Kross was anything special as a heel. We got one from Brady Tyler, who says that there's nobody on the current roster worthy enough to retire John Cena. And I gotta say, to an extent, I do agree. And the reason why I'm saying to an extent is because I don't necessarily think it's not that, you know, there's nobody worthy enough. It's just that the way that Triple H has booked everybody, you know, in the past year or so, or maybe even more, it's just like there's nobody believable to end the career, you know, to end one of the greatest career in the game. Like, if you asked me last year in 2024, who do you think should retire John Cena? I would have said Drew McIntyre in a heartbeat. Without any sort of hesitation, I would have said Drew McIntyre. Because of the kind of year he had in 2024, the story he was telling with CM Punk and all those guys, I thought he could tell an amazing story with John Cena, and that could be the perfect final chapter for his career. But the problem is, the way he's been booked in like 2025 is just so horrible that I can't see that happening at all, you know? I mean, forget can't seeing that happening. I don't want to see it happen at this point, you know? I don't want to see Drew McIntyre retire John Cena. But of course, the thing that most people are talking about, or maybe the person that most people are talking about, is Gunther. Yeah, the biggest rumor going around right now is that Gunther's going to be the one to retire John Cena. And it's like, here's the thing, man. I like Gunther. I really do. But here's the thing. The way he's been booked in 2025, I really don't want to see it. This guy was losing to Jey Uso at WrestleMania. This guy was bumping for Pat McAfee at Backlash. Like, come on, man. I don't want to see this guy retire John Cena now in 2025 after how he's been booked all year. So get out of here. And just like Drew McIntyre, I wouldn't mind seeing this in 2024, you know, if you ask me in 2024. What do you think about Gunther retiring John Cena? I wouldn't be mad at it, you know, because like I said, I do like Gunther. It's the booking that's the problem. The way they've booked him all year, it doesn't make me want to see him retire John Cena. So really the only, like, you know, the only people that I can think of that would be nice to retire John Cena are the legends, you know, like CM Punk, Randy Orton, all those guys. But the problem is, we've seen that already this year. We already saw that when Cena was a heel, so, you know, I don't really want to see that as the final match. So the problem is not really that there's nobody, you know, worthy enough to retire Cena. It's just that there's nobody that I want to see retire Cena at this point, you know, because the booking has been so bad. I just can't accept that this is the end. So yeah, while I do not completely agree with this gentleman here, I do see his point. I do see why he thinks that way. So yeah, like I said, I partially agree, you know, to an extent. Now with that being said, let's just move on to the next one. So the next one here is from @MacGowry1827, who says that Chris Jericho is underrated. He's the king of reinventing gimmicks from Y2J to Painmaker to Inner Circle. He's one of the best technicians of the wrestling with amazing mic skills, but Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle are better wrestlers than them, and John Cena, Rock, Steve Austin, CM Punk are better mic workers than them. A lot of people are better than him, so we forget how crazy Jericho was, and he is still going strong. Not too sure about that. We should still give him his flowers. Please take my hot take. Your wish is granted. I'm taking your hot take, and I gotta say, I do agree to an extent, just like the previous one, you know? I'm saying to an extent, because I do agree with the main point you're trying to make here, and it's that Chris Jericho is underrated. I do agree with that, you know, because I do think Chris Jericho is one of the all-time greats. He's one of my favorites of all time because I grew up watching him. But the problem with him is that, you know, he sucks now. Forget now. He sucked for the past like 5 years or so. I don't even know how long, man. This guy's been out here looking like a baby mama, embarrassing himself in the ring for God knows how long. And I feel like that's the problem. That's the reason why Chris Jericho is not being given the, you know, credit that he deserves. Being given the, you know, credit as being one of the greatest of all time. Chris Jericho is one of the prime examples of tarnishing your career, tarnishing your legacy. That's exactly what he's been doing for the past 5 years or so. So yeah, I do agree that he is underrated. You know, people should give him more credit for his work, you know, his past work. But the problem is, I do see exactly why he's not been given that credit. So at MacGowry1827, I do agree with your thesis. But like I said, I do understand the other side as well. I do understand why this is the case. So yeah, with that being said, let's just move on. So the next one here is from @Night of Enigma, who says that some wrestlers, content creators, and fans won't let WWE have their downfall despite the greed of TKO and ego of Triple Fraud because of their weird, undying loyalty to this brand of wrestling. Now here's the thing, alright? Do I think they're gonna have, you know, do I think they're gonna go out of business? Absolutely not, you know? I think WWE is just too big to kill at this point. They're immortal, so they're not gonna go out of business. But I do think that they are gonna have their downfall sooner or later because of their greed, you know, because of TKO and all that stuff. It is gonna happen. Because here's the thing, all those content creators you talk about, all those fans you talked about, I was, you know, frustrated by them earlier this year, you know, when I was making videos like, you know, crapping WWE and stuff like that, but they were going out there saying, oh my god, it's so awesome, WrestleMania is going to be great, wow, if you think Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble was a bad decision, you're a mark, you know, I remember facing all those criticisms, right? I remember all these, you know, goddamn big WWE YouTubers talking about how like Jey Uso winning the Rumble was a good decision, talking about how WrestleMania 41 is going to be great, and we're just complaining too much on all that stuff. But here's the thing, now When you look at it today, most of them, if not all of them, are saying that everything right now sucks, and they're losing interest as well. They're not even watching the shows week to week, and even the fans, you can see the internet reaction to everybody that's interacting with those, content creators that we just talked about. Everybody in their comments, everybody in their communities, and forget the internet, man. Just look at the live audience. Because, of course, these guys don't like to book for the internet fans, right? They like to book for the live audience. Look at the live audience. The seats are like half empty every single show, man. Like, come on. It's clear that they are going to have their downfall sooner or later. And, it's already happening. It's already started. Their greed is coming back to bite them in the ass. So yeah, I guess I kind of disagree here. I don't know, because I do think the downfall is gonna happen sooner or later. So with that being said, let's move on to the next one, which is from Gustavo Paniza 9964, who says that JBL is the greatest heel I've ever seen by a mile. Never turned face as far as I remembered. Only Randy can be in the conversation, but he turned face too many times though. Now I do agree, but here's the thing. Compared to some other all-time great heels like Randy Orton and Edge, I haven't really watched JBL as much, but every single clip I do see of him, every single promo, every single whatever I do see of JBL, it's always the most hilarious stuff ever, man, because this guy is awesome. So if you think he's the greatest heel ever, I'm not going to argue with that. I do see your point. Anybody that thinks this guy's not one of the greatest heels of all time, they're just wrong, man. But saying only Randy can be in that conversation is just plain wrong in my opinion, because we also have some other all-time great heels, like I said, Edge, and who else, man? Ric Flair, for example. Like, come on, man. Chris Jericho, we just talked about him earlier, and of course, like Shawn Michaels, Triple H, like all those guys. Like, come on, man. Saying that, saying only Randy can be in the conversation is kind of wrong. It's just plain wrong in my opinion. And I also feel like it doesn't really make sense to rate someone's heel work by, how many times they turn face, or, whether they stayed as a heel or turn face, whatever, I don't think that really makes sense. I think we should judge by their, heel performance alone. So I don't think Randy Orton's really below JBL because he turned face too many times. I mean, don't get me wrong, JBL is one of the greatest heels ever, in WWE at least. But I feel like saying that he's the greatest heel ever by a mile, and the fact that Randy Orton is the only one that can be in the conversation, it's just wrong in my opinion. So Gustavo Paniza, I am sorry. As much as I would like to agree with this, I absolutely do not agree. Okay, maybe not absolutely do not. I disagree, alright? I just disagree. So with that being said, let's move on to the next one. And it's from @antitoxic589. He says that WWE needs to stop doing a storyline tension that leads to a betrayal and a faction. Bro, this is what I've been saying for like God knows how long, man. Now here's the thing. Antitoxic's comment is a little too long, I'm not gonna lie. So while I'm not going to read it word for word, out loud here in the video, I did read it, I did read the comment. I read it from start to finish. And he basically said that these storylines where, with friendships and betrayals, the same old stuff, it's getting really repetitive. It's getting really annoying, basically. But the problem is, while I do agree with it, it's not a hot take. Let's be honest here. Everybody's saying this right now. So yeah, Antitoxic, I do agree with this 100%. And I feel like everybody would agree with this 100%. That's exactly why that's not a hot take. So get out of here. Okay, fine. Maybe not get out of here. But yeah, whatever. You get the point. All right, let's just move on. So the next comment is from, I think, Lindsay the B. I don't know. Who says, honestly, Cody looks too bored to be champion. Secondly, commentators are overselling moments to the point, it's boy who cried wolf. Now here's the thing, I do think Cody looks bored to be champion. I agree with that 100%, Just judging by Cody's performance lately, in his promos, in every single segment, he just looks too upset with his, I don't know, like booking, I guess? I don't even know. And he just seems very uninterested, Maybe it's because he's unhappy with his booking just as much as we are. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass here. But yeah, I do agree. Second comment, it's about the commentator overselling the moments and stuff like that. I mean, it's been going on forever now, I don't know about overselling moments in particular, but I do think on the whole, commentary right now absolutely sucks, I think Michael Cole is absolutely washed, and obviously Pat McAfee sucks ass. I do think guys like, Wade Barrett and, Corey Graves and, what's his name, man? Vic Joseph, yeah. Vic Joseph. Like, they're all cool, in my opinion. I think they're cool. But, the main guys that we have, like Michael Cole, Pat McAfee, they're ass, alright? They're absolutely ass. And it's not really that they're overselling the moments that's making me, hate the commentary. It's just that they're not, telling the story of what's going on in the ring. Like, they're not doing it right. They're just not. They're not elevating the match in any way. It's hard to pinpoint because I'm not really a commentary expert, but yeah, I guess to an extent I do agree with that comment as well. So this whole comment about Cody Rhodes and the commentary team, I do agree with it. Let's move on to the next one, which is from @LMFAOSMD, who says that Dave Meltzer's rating for WWE matches are 90% correct, and IWC is dumb for bitching about it. Bro, Kurt Angle has 0 5-star matches. Let that sink in. I mean, honestly, man, I just rest my case right there, That's all I need to make my point. But here's the thing, I don't absolutely hate Dave Meltzer either. I just don't care about him. I'm not going to spend 90% of my time bitching about Dave Meltzer's rating because I don't care. It's one guy's opinions. If Dave Meltzer thinks that John Cena versus, Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam 2025 was better and more worthy of a 5-star rating than, Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 21, then I don't care. It's his opinion. It's one guy's opinion. I don't care. I just move on with my day. But if you look me dead in the eye and tell me that his ratings are, objectively correct, they're the objectively correct ratings for every single match, then I'm sorry, you're just wrong. You're just plain wrong. So LMFAO, I'm sorry, but I disagree with you 100%. And with that being said, let's move on to the next one. Now, the next one here is from @LoveLaughterWar, who says that Triple H is not able to handle the fact that he's not a cool... Bro, I'm a dumbass. I just said cool instead of COO, man. So yeah, you get the point. Triple H is not able to handle the fact that he's not a COO anymore, and he's just an employee. So he buries wrestlers, comes out to make an announcement that nobody asked for to say, and you get the point. That's basically what he's saying. That Triple H is doing this because he's jealous, because he's envious that he's not a COO anymore. I do think there's an egotistical or, envious reason as to why Triple H is being so bad at his job right now. I mean, there was a report from somebody close to Triple H, apparently, that, Triple H is trying to be this, face of the company, pretty much, Yeah, forget about Cody Rhodes. Forget about, QB1s. Forget about OTCs. Triple H is the face of the company right now. Apparently, he wants to be the, Dana White of WWE, the face of the brand, pretty much. And people are saying that he is diminishing other people, other, former peers of his, to make himself look good, to present himself as, the top guy, pretty much, even though he's not a wrestler. You get the point. And honestly, while I do not know if that's 100% true for obvious reasons, I can't see that being very far off, Triple H definitely seems like that kind of a guy. So yeah, while I don't really like to make assumptions, I do kind of agree with Love Laughter War here. So yeah, with that being said, let's just move on. The next one is from @JamesStevensD1, who says that everybody has to stop lying to themselves and stop saying that Dominic and Braun are the future when people like Kyle Fletcher, Blake Monroe, Javon Evans, and MJF exist. All of these superstars have proven that those two are jobbers at maximum, and people should stop treating them like hidden gems of nothing. Here's the thing, man. I feel like a lot of y'all don't even know what jobber means. Right? I look at my comments, right? I do look at my comments, and I see y'all calling everybody a jobber. Like, come on, man. I think you guys just don't know what a jobber is. Because as much as I do not like Braun Breaker, I don't really see the hype. He's not a jobber. Like, he's not bad in the ring, pretty mid on the mic. Overall, he's not bad, and I don't hate him, but I just don't feel anything when I watch him. And yeah, I do agree that the guys you named are better than guys like Dominic Mysterio and Braun Breaker, but I do feel like we're acting like, Dom and Braun absolutely suck ass and are good for nothing, which is not true in my opinion. So like I said, I partially agree with this. Next up, we got Boring Gunther and Jobber Cody Rhodes are the most overpushed and most overpushed champions of all time ever. Now, here's the thing, man. Like I said, some of y'all just be throwing the word jobber around on everybody. And I mean everybody. So tell me, if everybody somehow sucks, is it more likely that everybody just magically sucks and is bad at their jobs as pro wrestlers, or is it more likely that the booker just absolutely sucks? If you ask me, I'd go with the latter. So no. Gunther and Cody are not bad, they're not jobbers, because they've proven time and time again they can put on some great work. Now, because Triple H is a garbage booker, yes, almost everything they've done this year has been super boring. It's his fault. Blame him. I do have my criticism for Cody and Gunther. I criticize everything, but that's the key word. Criticize, not baseless arguments. So yeah, I disagree with this take. Let's just move on. @Naram1092 has a long ass take. It actually seems to be a list of hot takes. I'm not going to read all of these because I am sorry, there's a lot. I'm going to try to get as much as I can get. So he says that reaction channels ruined John Cena's retirement. The likes of Ross's clutch when John Cena started cutting the "It's Your Fault" promos for 3 weeks in a row. Ross out here saying "Let Papa H cook." His over-the-top reaction or refusal to hold WWE accountable, or rather fence sitting so that he can keep appearing on WWE's TikTok for his reactions. So as long as those live reactions exist, WWE will use them. Look how their WWE Universe reacted to Brock Lesnar return and stuff like that, and it's just Ross and his friends. Honestly, I have no idea who Ross's clutch is, Is that a guy from Cultaholic or something? I don't know. But yeah, man, I've talked about this earlier this year. Like, for example, back when me and several other wrestling fans were talking crap about Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble, as we should have, and it was just so pissing off seeing all these big YouTubers defend WWE like their lives depend on it. Like, bro, I swear to God, they were meat riding everything, and it got so annoying. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean to spread hate. I got nothing against these guys. And I wouldn't say that they're the reason why John Cena's retirement tour was ruined. I think Cena's retirement tour was bad solely because of Triple H being a god-awful booker. And I don't think any amount of internet criticisms would have saved it. Because we're seeing it now. Most content creators who spend the better part of the year bootlegging WWE are now coming around. They're saying WWE sucks, but is WWE actually getting better? No. So yeah, while it was annoying how much they were meat riding WWE, it's not them who ruined Cena's retirement tour. And I'm sorry, Narum1092, but we need to move on. At I'm So Cool says that Jimmy Uso is the best promo worker from the Bloodline because he doesn't need a catchy catchphrase to be good on the mic like the rest of the Bloodline members do. Nah, dude, Roman Reigns is the best promo worker from the Bloodline. Jimmy's better than Jey on the mic, sure, I'll give him that, but that's about it, you know. So yeah, I disagree with his take. Yeah, you're not very cool, buddy, I'm sorry. At ES Garrick says that Triple H buries the older talent. The best older guy was Punk, who was world champion but for 5 minutes. Cena's retirement tour has been trash. Randy's being booked like a jobber. So is Sheamus and AJ. I made a separate video on this, you should check it out. But yes, I agree with this 100%. At Alejandro RDZ says that WWE has gone on a downward spiral since Cody won the title at Mania 40. Yes, WWE has gotten worse since Cody won at Mania 40, but has it gotten worse because Cody won at Mania 40? No. I'm tired of this narrative that the reason why WWE sucks right now is because Roman Reigns is no longer champion. We still have Roman Reigns. We still see him here and there. Has he done anything great this year? No, man. The WrestleMania main event match, that was great, I'll give him that. But everything else, and I mean everything else, has been so bad. This dude hasn't cut a good promo since before WrestleMania 40, where he cut the promo on Seth Rollins, with the dude, workhorses walk like this. That was the last good promo. That was the last great promo from Roman Reigns. I'm not saying Roman's not great. I love Roman, but like I've said multiple times in this video alone, blame Triple H. WWE doesn't suck right now because Cody beat Roman at Mania 40. It sucks because Triple H didn't capitalize on that big moment and do something cool with it. Tell great stories with it. So yeah, like I said, yes, WWE's gone on a downward spiral ever since Cody won the title at Mania 40, but not because of it. So let's just move on. At Itachi Uchicha says that Brock Lesnar is boring and overrated. Yes, he has a look and believability, but he has only 2 moves, has no personality besides being aggressive, almost always, the same motivation if he even has any. He's horrible on the mic and tells no stories in the ring. This is exactly what I've been saying, dude. Like, I genuinely don't get the allure of Brock Lesnar anymore. I see all these people glazing the heck out of him, like he's out here and actually delivering peak work, but when was the last time Brock Lesnar actually told a good story? He had to bring out a whole damn tractor just to have a good match with Roman after putting on 500 bad ones. And yeah, he has no motivations. What was his motivation behind the Cody Rhodes stuff, the Cena stuff? Like, get out of here, man. So yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with this take. Might even make a separate video on it soon. So yeah, let's just move on. At Greater Than Hero K says that I have a couple actually. WWE's overpolished presentation makes it harder to buy into any instance of bleeding or profanity. I agree, but honestly, that's something I've just moved on from at this point. I don't think we're ever going to go back to the good old days of WWE shows actually looking rugged, back when, they actually looked like wrestling shows. So yeah, I've just moved on from it. And the next take here says that Forbidden Door is a faulty concept for a yearly pay-per-view, and it should never be scheduled close to the biggest AEW pay-per-views. I mean, I like it, I'm not gonna lie. I think this year's Forbidden Door wasn't very good because it was pretty much an AEW show, I feel like if they mix it up more with more talent from New Japan, it would be great. But I don't think it's a bad concept for a pay-per-view. So let's just move on. AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre should have been used to build up the Raw World Championship, and Seth Rollins as a character is overrated. Nah, man, I think Seth Rollins was the perfect inaugural World Heavyweight Champion, and I will not accept any revisionism. Fans wanted Seth Rollins to win back then. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was either Edge or Seth Rollins. People wanted Edge purely for the nostalgia of seeing him with the big gold, but most fans, truly in their heart, wanted to see Seth Rollins as World Champion back then. And about Seth Rollins' character, I think it's just run its course, It was good for what it was. I like the heel visionary we had back in 2021 during his feud with Edge and then with Cody, but now I do agree, it has run its course. It kind of sucks now. I just feel like Seth needs to either reinvent himself completely or just go back to being his 2018 self or something like that, you know? So yeah, I partially agree with this, but mostly disagree. So let's just move on. At Alex Y Son says Dominic is glazed AF. He's not that good. Yeah, man, I absolutely agree, you know. I don't hate Dom, I do like him, but bro, he is glazed like crazy, and his promos are still ass. I don't care what anybody says. At Sainov05S says, as much as a pain he is in real life, bring back Matt Riddle to WWE. He's a natural heel in real life. No. Just no. At OG Mania says, okay, Crit, here's 2 hot takes. 1, having multiple 5-star matches literally doesn't mean you're a good wrestler, and that applies to many WWE wrestlers, including Cody Rhodes. His in-ring work has been the same since his early years, absolute mid. It's the length of the match, his opponents, and the way the match is booked, which guarantees him the 5-star match. And we saw that with his match with AJ Styles and John Cena. Now, I disagree. I don't think Cody's in-ring work is mid. Honestly, I think it's the other way around. You know, I think it's been mid because of WWE's booking. There's always some kind of weird shenanigans and whatnot, like Cody versus KO at Bash in Berlin, for example. I really liked that match when I was watching it live, but then they did like a stupid spot where Cody's knee buckled, and then Kevin Owens no-sold a double crossroads. Like, you see what I mean? They always overcomplicate the heck out of his matches by giving it some weird-ass shenanigans to protect him, and they barely have him wrestle on TV. So yeah, I think his booking is why his in-ring work has been so boring lately. And about the whole 5-star match thingy, while I do think Dave Meltzer's ratings are the end-all be-all, I still think if you have multiple 5-star matches, you've got to be a great wrestler. I mean, don't get me wrong here. I don't think wrestler A is better than wrestler B because he has more 5-star matches than the other. No. But if someone has multiple 5-star matches, I'd say they are a great wrestler. Now, the second hot take here is that the Fiend character was the most overrated character / gimmick in the past 2 decades. His gimmick was so exaggerated and he absolutely buried the Universal Championship and Seth Rollins in 2019. Goldberg beating him was one of the few best booking decisions in 2019. Okay, you had me until the very last sentence, you know. I actually like the idea of the Fiend. Could they have done some cool stuff with it? Yes. But did they? Absolutely not. And again, I will not accept any sort of revisionism. In 2021, the stuff with the Fiend, Alexa Bliss, and then Randy Orton as well, it was some of the worst and most unwatchable garbage television ever. It was horrible. And guess what? Here's a hot take of my own. I think the Fiend versus John Cena, the Firefly Funhouse match was absolute dog water. And I hated every single second of it. I swear to God, man, most fans glaze it like it's the best thing in the world, but I hated every single second of it. But yeah, did the character have potential? Yes. But did they do anything with it? No. It was horrible overall in my opinion, but Goldberg beating the Fiend was definitely not a good decision, man. Goldberg should have never been anywhere near the world title scene for WrestleMania. I think the Fiend versus John Cena should have been a regular match for the Universal title because Goldberg just absolutely sucks. And don't get me wrong, I love Bray Wyatt, but my honest opinion about the Fiend character in particular is that it wasn't good. It could have been, but it wasn't. So yeah, I semi-agree with this. Let's just move on. At Limitless has a long-ass hot take, holy hell. So basically what he's saying is that Brock Lesnar should have beaten Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 to become the undisputed champion, and I already disagree, you know. There's like a whole fantasy booking rampage here, but yeah, I already disagree with Brock being the undisputed champion, because dude, Roman was the guy. He was champion for so long, and the wise decision would be not to have him lose until you have your next guy. Brock Lesnar did not need that win. So yeah, I also see Austin Theory winning the championship on here, so yeah, I'm sorry, man. I already disagree with this one, so yeah, let's just move on. At B Nutter says, oh, pause. Anyways, yeah, they say that Solo is trash, the Bloodline story needs to come to an immediate end, start something new and fresh with a different talent. Agreed, but not a hot take. Let's be honest here, literally nobody cares about Solo's Bloodline or MFT anymore, so let's just move on. At Rob Feliciano, I'm pretty bad with names, guys. I do apologize. So Rob says that there is nobody to replace Triple H as creative. I do see that, honestly, you know, I'm not gonna lie. Because yeah, that is true. Who else? People are gonna say, oh, Shawn Michaels, he's doing a great job with NXT. Yeah, you know who else did a great job with NXT? Triple H. I feel like NXT booking cannot really be used to determine if they can be a good booker for the main roster, because I feel like NXT has a lot less restrictions. I'm sure the booker has more freedom, more flexibility, and guess what? If we're talking only NXT, Triple H is a better booker than Shawn Michaels. Dude, early black and gold NXT, Shawn Michaels is not touching that. Triple H's best NXT show was better than Shawn Michaels' best NXT show. And Shawn's worst NXT show is way worse than Triple H's worst NXT show. So honestly, I don't believe in this narrative that WWE will be amazing if Shawn Michaels takes over. And I'm not even gonna lie, I don't think Shawn Michaels is the second choice. I don't think the guys at TKO are saying, well, if Triple H doesn't do a good job, let's get Shawn in there. No, I don't think so, you know. If somehow Triple H would have to leave his job right now, I think we're just gonna get a random TKO shill as a head booker, you know, which honestly might actually be worse. And that's the worst part. We are cooked regardless. That's why I've never said, oh, Triple H needs to be fired immediately and all that stuff, you know, because here's the thing. There's no guarantee that it's gonna get better without him. So yeah, if not Triple H, I think it would just be some random schmuck that kisses TKO's ass more than Triple H does. So I don't know. I mean, wait, is this even a hot take? I don't know, man. But yeah, that's what I think. Not that I'm certain that there's nobody to replace Triple H. It's just that I'm pretty damn sure that if it ain't Triple H, it's not gonna be someone that's any better. At Radu Constantine says, many people say that indie wrestlers shouldn't take that crazy bumps, but the truth is, it is very hard to be seen otherwise. You need to show that you can put your body to the test if you don't have any relations in the wrestling world. I see your point, and I'm not sure where, when, or what the context was, but in some kind of interview or podcast, CM Punk did say this as well, you know. He said that he does see it both ways. Like, yeah, you shouldn't fully destroy your body, but he sees that it's just them trying to make a name for themselves. I'll probably edit that in if I find it, you know. To be honest, I don't really see that point at all. If you have to put your body through a glass table and a wooden table with barbed wires and thumbtacks on it, off the top of the ladder with a giant butt plug shoved in your ass, all in the name of a spot, yeah, a spot, just to get recognized, to make a name for yourself. If you're a wrestler that thinks you gotta do all that just to make a name for yourself, I'm sorry, but you just gotta work on your actual wrestling skills. Because first of all, you're not gonna make a name for yourself. As a matter of fact, you're gonna turn people away from you. Like, yeah, you can go viral, sure, you know. You're probably gonna be trending on Twitter, you're probably gonna end up on Instagram Reels, but most people, if not everybody who watches that, would be like, nah, dude, I ain't watching that. I am not gonna watch that, whether they are a wrestling fan or not. Most people would be like, turn that shit off. Because in almost every single one of those clips that have gone viral, I cannot recall a single one of them where I can actually name the wrestler from the clip. The spot goes viral, people cringe at it, but nobody actually cares about the actual wrestler. And most of all, that's not really the only way to make a name for yourself. It is absolutely not the only way to make a name for yourself, especially in the age of social media. Like, content creators in every single field get some decent amount of traction within a year if they actually work hard and work smart. And on top of that, if you improve the stuff that actually makes wrestling wrestling, your ability to get the people invested in what you're doing in the ring and what story you're telling in the ring, your mic ability, your charisma, your gear, your overall presentation, there is so much for you to actually work on, especially early in your career, where you should spend all your time and energy improving the things I just mentioned. Not throwing your body around and destroying it. Like, bro, you are gonna have to retire by 28 if you do that. So yeah, I do disagree with this one. I don't think those big bumps should even be considered, especially if you're young or new. I'm not saying I know more wrestling than wrestlers themselves, but I do have more common sense than some of them for sure. So yeah, let's just move on. At Justice U Toker says, this fire burns is overrated. What is with all these trash ass takes about theme songs, bro? What the hell? First Burning My Light, now this fire burns. Like, those are some of the best theme songs in WWE history, man. But yeah, I mean, I just disagree, you know. This fire burns is one of my all-time favorites, because dude, when that hit at WrestleMania, I was there at Allegiant Stadium, you know, and I lost my goddamn voice. Dude, holy hell, we all did. Everybody in the stadium did, especially after that moment being there live and in living color. That made that song so much more special to me. So yeah, I absolutely disagree with this. I think this fire burns is goated. Let's just move on. This person just threw the ones up like, okay, sure. I mean, I agree, I guess. At Dark Lighting Inferno says that since SummerSlam 2024, Roman is neither a heel or a babyface, he's more of a tweener. I mean, that's not a hot take. That's literally everybody thinks that. And that's what I hate, you know. In my opinion, he should be a babyface. I would have loved to see Roman Reigns just have this arc where he realizes that he abused his family and he apologizes to them. And then winning the You Will Follow Back and all that stuff. But yeah, whatever, man. At this point, it's just whatever. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have no idea how to say that. The WWE is not watchable at the moment and there's no redeeming qualities. No, because if you ask me, I think WWE has the opportunity to put on a good show like tomorrow. Like, I don't know what's to close the show, but this upcoming Monday Night Raw has the potential to actually be a good show. And guess what? This upcoming SmackDown can actually be a good show as well if they play their cards right and use their stars right. And that's the problem. They haven't been playing their cards right. They have just been making bad decisions after bad decisions after bad decisions. Dude, Raw can genuinely be great. They have CM Punk, AJ Styles, LA Knight, sometimes Roman Reigns, Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, and then you got the up-and-comers in Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Dominic Mysterio. Like, they can genuinely put on a great show. It's just that they have been putting in zero effort and they're not utilizing their stars right. So yeah, I disagree. I mean, can WWE be incredible and just absolute cinema and having us feel like kids again? No, it cannot. But saying there's no redeeming qualities is just wrong in my opinion, because I do think they can still give us good stuff with the roster that they have. At TripleBalt67 says, do not bring back Alberto Del Rio. How is that a hot take? No, because tell me, who in their right mind is actually saying, man, I wish WWE would bring back Alberto Del Rio? Like, no, nobody's saying that. So TripleBalt, I'm sorry, but that is not a hot take. But of course, I do agree. At Zara Rostami said that Roman Reigns is doing the same shit Jey Uso does. Like, elaborate? Like, I genuinely have no idea what you mean. So I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to move on. This is incredibly vague. At CMAT All That says that the best WWE can do right now is to do Edge versus Cena in Cena's last match. Yeah, bro, that's not happening. I love Edge versus Cena. It's one of my favorite rivalries of all time. But I feel like people gotta accept the fact that there's no way this match can happen, because I'm legit seeing people think this is a possibility. It's not happening, guys. Edge is an AEW. WWE's not going to get an AEW guy to compete on their show. The most they're probably going to do is have him send a video message, maybe like they did with Jericho and Bryan back in the day. Or maybe they're going to have him in the ring along with everybody else, all of John Cena's former rivals and peers. Maybe they have all of them in the ring to congratulate him and stuff like that in this final match. And maybe Edge will be there as well. But they will not promote an AEW wrestler. They're not going to promote you if you're not signed with them. WWE does not do handshake agreements. CM Punk said it himself, People actually thought that when he returned at Survivor Series in 2023, he wasn't actually signed. It was a last-minute decision that they made. But CM Punk denied those rumors and said that WWE will never let anybody go out there on their shows if they're not signed. So would I love to see Edge versus Cena? Absolutely. I'm devastated we're not getting that, as a matter of fact. But you gotta accept reality, and the reality is that Edge versus Cena is history. So yeah, let's just move on. At Greater Than Hero says, I don't know how the timeline would work, but Damian Priest or someone else that has the size plus look should have straight up come in and debuted as The Undertaker. Would have worked because, Taker isn't even really human. Even better if they could have broken the streak, technically keeping it alive. So are you trying to say that the gimmick or character of The Undertaker should have been passed on from Mark Calloway to Damian Priest or somebody else of his size and stature? No, man, hell no. There's only one Undertaker. There will always be just one Undertaker. If Damian Priest debuted as The Undertaker, the new Undertaker, that would be career suicide right there, because The Undertaker simply exceeds a wrestling gimmick. The Undertaker is an icon. So I mean, I see why this is a hot take. This might be one of the hottest takes on here, and man, I cannot disagree more. Absolutely not. I'm glad that The Undertaker hasn't been reduced to a gimmick that can be passed on to someone else. So yeah, let's just move on. I absolutely disagree with this one. At Alex Sison says Dean Ambrose is better than Jon Moxley. No, I don't agree, man. And I'm saying this as someone that loved Dean Ambrose. He was one of my favorites at the time. But man, Jon Moxley has far surpassed Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose's match catalog is not touching Jon Moxley's match catalog. Like, it's not even close. And I do understand that some of what Jon Moxley does in the ring isn't necessarily for everyone, with a lot of fans saying it's too violent for them. I get that, It's all opinions at the end of the day. But then again, I feel like the sheer talent and the body of work of Jon Moxley is just undeniable, man. It's undeniable. Like, it is undeniable that he is a phenomenal wrestler, whether some of his bloody stuff is for you or not. Like, take Roman, for example, Roman Reigns. Some of his overly theatrical storytelling isn't for everyone. Some people just don't like it. But at the end of the day, it is undeniable that Roman's great. So yeah, that's how I feel about people saying stuff like, oh, Jon Moxley needs to resort to doing stuff like weird torture porn. Like, no. And even outside of the stuff that some people may consider too much, he has still put on some incredible work. And I'm not saying that Dean Ambrose did not. Dean was great too, but when you just watch the way this guy works, you can just tell he has gotten so much better in these past few years when he was already great. So yeah, I'm gonna respectfully disagree with this one. Adoofmaster says that all of WWE's wrestlers should show up and wrestle at least 3 to 4 times a month. So all part-timers like Punk, Logan Paul, Brock Lesnar, etc., if they don't show up and compete, they shouldn't get any pushes and TV time off, and if more, fired. I mean, yeah, I think that the guys you center the shows around, the guys that you center your stories around, they should definitely be full-timers that show up almost every single week and wrestle consistently. But I don't think the part-timers should not be given quote-unquote pushes or get fired. Like, hell no. These guys are attractions. So I do think we should use them to put on big matches, elevate younger talent, and all that stuff. Like Roman Reigns, for example. Since he's a part-timer, I wouldn't mind seeing him show up once in a while. Like maybe he shows up for SummerSlam to feud with CM Punk, and then he goes away. And then he shows up for Survivor Series to feud with Braun Breaker, and then he goes away for a while again. Like, I'm fine with that. My only problem is when you rely on part-timers. WWE relies on someone like a Roman Reigns. As long as WWE doesn't rely on part-timers, I am fine with them. At Maroon says that Rhea Ripley is not improving and Triple H is not taking her career to the next level with hard work, organically with the fans, not giving Jade, Bianca, R-Truth, Montez, and LA Knight the Rocket. I mean, I don't know how these sentences are even related, you know? But yeah, I feel like the reason why Rhea Ripley's gone stale now is because 1, her promos just aren't that good, and 2, because she doesn't wrestle much, she's got to keep cutting the same promos over and over again, especially because Rhea Ripley is always in one feud for the majority of the year. So yeah, I don't think it's her fault that she's gone stale as hell. Everybody's gone stale. It's because of Triple H. I wouldn't say that Rhea herself is not improving at all though, because she has delivered some great stuff here and there this year. So like I said, she has gone super stale, but it's because Triple H just sucks ass. Next one on here says modern 5-star matches are not that worthy of being a 5-star match. I mean, I can't agree or disagree here because it is very inconsistent. Like, do I think Ospreay versus Hangman was worthy of 5 stars? Absolutely. Do I think Cena and Cody deserve 5 stars? Absolutely not. So if you go back and watch both of these matches and compare Cena versus Cody and Ospreay versus Hangman, you're telling me that those matches are on the same level? Absolutely not. Like I said, it's one guy's opinion, so I get why that may be the case. And even these are just my opinions. So really this whole match rating discourse is something I never really cared about. It's just opinions at the end of the day. So yeah, I can't really agree or disagree here because I see both ways here. There have been 5-star matches in the modern era that absolutely do not deserve 5 stars, but there have been matches that absolutely do deserve 5 stars. So yeah, with that being said, let's just move on. At Anti-Toxic, damn, this dude's got a lot of complaints. Like, yeah, bro, this guy is not anti-toxic. He's one of the most toxic bastards on here. I mean, I'm just kidding here, you know. I appreciate the passion. Anyways, with how dog shit John Cena's retirement tour has been, John Cena shouldn't retire at the end of this year, but rather The Rock should come. Nah, man, just no. Like, please, that's enough. Or enough! I am tired of The Rock sneaking himself into these top storylines, man. That's enough. Let's just do the best we can in these very few dates that we have left. So yeah, let's just move on. At What Q5Q says AEW has MJF, I think the best heel of the decade, and WWE has who? Stardust as WWE champion who was elevated by his opponents in promos. Alright, here's the thing, man. I feel like with a lot of these wrestlers, you guys genuinely don't have real criticism for them, you know? You just repeat whatever you see on the internet. Cause look, while I do have my own criticism for Cody Rhodes' promo work, saying he's bad and he needs his opponents to elevate him is just a lie. Pretending like Cody Rhodes hasn't cut great promos in his career is just a lie. Pretending like he didn't do the heavy lifting in some of his top feuds is just a lie. Yeah, you don't believe me? Well, go back and watch the build up to Mania 39. Who was cutting promos every week on Raw and even on most SmackDowns? Who was wrestling consistently on Raw and SmackDown? It was Cody Rhodes. The main intrigue and hype and excitement behind the Mania 39 match was Cody Rhodes finishing the story, and the same can be said about Mania 40, but of course you also had The Rock in there, you know, who in my opinion contributed a little more than Cody in the overall hype for Mania 40, and even the Brock Lesnar feud, man. Brock Lesnar didn't do anything in the entire rivalry that spanned from Raw after Mania all the way till SummerSlam. He didn't do anything. He just showed up, did a brawl, and left. Cody Rhodes was actually cutting promos every single week and actually building up the match, building up the story. So saying that he needs his opponent to elevate him in promos and that he cannot do anything on his own is simply a lie. And like I've said before, you have to blame the creative team. The food is not spoiled. The chef just sucks. So get out of here with that BS. Let's just move on. Tiffany Stratton is one of the most overrated wrestlers and one of the worst wrestlers of all time when it comes to the mic skills. I mean, yeah, I've been saying this for a while now, you know, that she absolutely sucks on the mic. In ring, I'm not going to say she's bad. She's kind of like a female Trick Williams, you know? She mirrors her opponents. You put her in the ring with Jade Cargill or Nia Jax, you get a bad match. But with someone like a Becky Lynch, you get a good match. So yeah, I do think they should slow down a bit when it comes to the Tiffany Stratton push. My hot take is that Cjax is the best WWE wrestler of all time. Now, that is a hot take. Crit Diddy 1-0. Yeah, man, I am so surprised that at Cjax Reborn 525 is saying this. Like, damn, bro, hop off the meat, pal. Quit the Cjacking. But yeah, man, this comment's hilarious. Thank you, Cjax Reborn, for your comment. I think Roman should turn back to his aggressive heel character and absolutely squash Cody Rhodes, or at least beat Seth for the title. He was unstoppable from 2020 to pre-WrestleMania 40, and now all of a sudden Triple H nerfed him. And don't tell me about part-time, because Cody randomly takes breaks as well. I mean, while I do think Roman's OTC character has flaws, I don't think he should turn heel again. We'd just be going backwards in the story, you know? Unlike a lot of people, I'm not completely against Roman winning a world title again. I'd like to see him and Punk go at it at Mania 42 for the world title. So yeah, there's that. But like I said, I don't think Roman should turn heel again. He's grown past that in my opinion. We gotta move forward in the story. And Andreas98 says that Gunther is underrated, and yeah, man, I do agree. Triple H's bad booking really has people convinced that this guy is just a terrible wrestler, which is absolutely stupid in my opinion, because if you actually sit down and watch a great match of his, and actually watch it for the wrestling, you will see how good of a storyteller he is in the ring. I mean, from the time he was in NXT UK, putting on absolute classics. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I religiously watched NXT UK, no. But from everything I have seen, he put on some incredible work there, and when he came over to the main roster, all you'd hear about this guy, whether it was from the fans or some veterans, some legends, was how great of a performer he is, and it reflected on TV as well. His IC title run was incredible. I loved the whole story with Sheamus. The triple threat match at Mania was great. The feud with Chad Gable was amazing as well, man. Like, his body of work was just amazing. The problem was when he won the World Heavyweight Championship. They had their main eventers busy with their own thing, you know. Punk was busy with Drew. Drew was busy with Punk. Seth was busy bitching about Drew and Punk. So you had Gunther go out there and feud with Damian Priest. Like, this is a newly established main eventer we have in Gunther, so if you want him to actually be up there, then you gotta give him a couple of main eventers. I like that Randy Orton was his first challenger, but that was just, you know, that was just filler. And everything just fully crumbled when Jey Uso ended up being his WrestleMania opponent. I just feel like the booking has done him absolutely dirty for about a year or so. They're not writing stories that actually suit his character, you know? They have him go out there and look like a bitch to Jey Uso and Damian Priest. Gunther is solid, man, and it's just sad to see him done dirty like this, because I know for a fact that this dude can deliver some great stuff if given the chance. And it seems like that is it, you know. We went through almost every single hot take, and I gotta say I did enjoy reading all of these, you know, whether I disagree with them, whether I agree with them. I did enjoy hearing you guys out. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and with that being said, that is it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all next video. Peace out.